Welcome to East End Community Housing. My name is Christina DeSanti, and I'm co-hosting with Michael Daly.
Nice to be with you again, Christina. So our show here is meant to have discussions and talk with interesting people on the East End about community housing, dispel some of the myths and give some really helpful facts. And today we are lucky enough to be here with our friend Curtis Highsmith, who is the Curtis Highsmith Jr. is the Executive Director of the Town of Southampton Housing Authority. As director, Curtis has led the charge to create affordable housing units throughout Southampton Township for how many years now, Curtis?
Since 2014.
Since 2014, so for 10 years. Curtis fosters relationships with a number of industry agencies such as the Long Island Housing Partnership, United Way, Habitat for Humanity, which joined forces to develop multiple single-family homes for first-time buyers. The Town of Southampton Housing Authority owns and manages 37-unit affordable housing complex in Hampton Bays and also multiple low-income rental units. Curtis organized and held the first Fair Housing Summit with Long Island Housing Service and Touro Law School here on the East End to help inform legal professionals, town officials about fair housing. Curtis is a member of the Suffolk County Human Rights Commission and assigned as the commission's expert on fair housing and housing discrimination. So Curtis brings a tremendous amount of experience to the table, and we're so glad to have you, Curtis.
Thank you. I want to thank Christina and Mike. Thank you for inviting me. Talking about something I'm passionate with, and I've always advised people this is not only my job and responsibility, but it's kind of my ministry, and I've taken it as such.
Well, blessings. Thank you. So, Curtis, explain to our viewers. There's a housing authority in East Hampton, there's a housing authority in Southampton. I believe those are the only two housing authorities on the East End. There's not one in Riverhead, Southold, or Shelter Island, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, so explain to our viewers the charter of the Town of Southampton Housing Authority, how it came to being, and its relationship to the town, the county, and the community.
Okay.
Because it's people think, oh, that's part of the town, but it really is not. It's not a town agency per se.
Most people, unfortunately, misunderstand the relationship of any particular housing authority and the municipality it operates in. Most townships have a housing department. They normally call it either a community housing, community development housing. It's what CARA represents now.
Carabac in Southampton, and in East Hampton, it's Eric Shantz.
That's
Yes.
correct.
Correct.
So most municipalities have an in-house housing department that are responsible pretty much for their programs. That's administrating the Section 8 or Housing Choice Voucher Program, allocating CDBG funding, that's community block funding.
Community CGDB.
CDBG,
Yes. It's like, yeah,
community block grants.
community block grants, which is given to
So it's
the
part of a
townships by-
consortium, that we're getting off track, but just slightly,
Yeah.
but.
It's
every
complicated, right?
hamlet
It is
is, the East End Forks are part of a consortium. A consortium gets county funding for purposes for either developing affordable housing, putting money towards community benefit, even doing upgrades to facilities or public facilities and parks.
Okay.
So they are able to help allocate that. And normally that's what the community development responsibility is, and that would be out throughout pretty much all of New York State as well as nationally. What a municipality has the opportunity to do, because most municipalities are not in the business of being landlords,
Sure.
developers, creation of affordable housing. So they would hire either a third-person agency, such as the Long Island Housing Partnership or CDC of Long Island, to come in, and it would be the agency that would execute on the housing plan for the town. That's the creation of affordable housing. Or it will create its own independent housing authority. This is where it becomes a little complicated, because where's the connection and the oversight of the housing authority as it relates to the township? A town supervisor would create under resolution the need for housing. It would create under New York State, because this is a state mandate. And therefore, it's under Chapter 60 of New York State that created our mandate as a housing authority.
As a housing.
So we are a quasi-government agency.
Okay.
We're separate from the town. The town's oversight is they actually select and choose our commissioners, Board of Commissioners.
Okay.
The Board of Commissioners, 5-person panel. The Board of Commissioners therefore now are responsible for the bylaws, the creation of the housing authority, assigning or hiring its executive director, and the executive director now is responsible of the oversight of the agency. So that's that direct relationship. We administer the program on behalf of the town of Southampton, meaning the Housing Choice Voucher Program. So we are the administrators for that program. The town is the PHA, which is normally not the same with other housing authorities. Other housing authorities usually are the PHA or Public Housing Agency.
The public housing agency.
They're normally the Public Housing Agency. We are not, the town of Southampton is, and so therefore all HUD relationship goes to the town. The town then, once receives this HAP or housing assistance, transfers it to the housing authority, and then we would be able to allocate that to the landlords and administer the program on behalf of the town.
Okay. There's going to be a test on this.
Yes,
Right.
it's a lot. It's a lot.
No, it is a lot to get your mind around. But,
Yes.
And the
Well-
fact that it's different in, every municipality.
Correct.
yeah,
We're
it's
different than most municipalities. And I tried to explain this at another forum. Most housing authorities, they are the PHA, and they get direct funding from HUD. Southampton Housing Authority does not receive a single dollar through HUD for any of our services or any of our programs. So how do you operate? How do you keep the doors open? We're an agency that really, we buy home sales, properties that we rent, administering programs like the Housing Choice Voucher Program. We have our own rental projects through Sandy Hollow, Spion Commons, and Hampton-based apartments. We receive parcels and also do our own investment in parcels that we make available for first-time home buyers. And then we lease and rent properties. So we're more of a not-for-profit government entity developer contractor.
I see. So yeah, you're not just given money. You have to earn your money.
We earn our
You
money.
have to
Correct.
create developments that serve people and also earn income in
Correct.
order to stay alive.
Correct.
Well, that's terrific. That's good to know. So there's an accountability there.
There is an accountability.
Yeah.
There's pros and cons. As a public housing agency, there are a lot of HUD funding that's made available to help subsidize and as well as to help in some of the creation of housing that we need, but unfortunately we don't qualify for. There are a number of solar programs for some of our projects that we'll be able to get under that mandate to put on our projects to make them more sustainable. But unfortunately, because we're not a PHA, we don't qualify for it. But
Yeah, those are some downsides.
yeah, but we are a corporation that now can operate as an independent not-for-profit. And through the not-for-profit entity, look at those other programs that are becoming more and more available.
So that's interesting. Right now, Katie Casey and the East Hampton Housing Authority is going through adding solar panels to many of their properties too. So that's something that they can do because of the way they're structured, but that's not something that you would have to
You
do it
need
in a different way.
alternate sources of funding and grants.
And which is a good segue into a community housing fund. Because by this new available financial source,
Yeah.
we're able to use that and tap into that funding to make our units more, that could be another permitted use for that community housing fund that we now have available for us.
And to do that, you need to then apply to the Community Housing Fund Advisory Board, is that right?
Correct.
The Community Housing Fund Advisory Board, of which I was a member of for the first year in Southampton, would then make their recommendations to the town board, and then the town board would decide whether or not to grant that funding, just like for any other application.
And that brings to light some of the challenges a housing authority would have in trying to create affordable housing. We are competing with the market.
Yeah.
Where we're competing with other affordable housing developers, but we're
Right.
also competing with for-profit developers out there in the market. So when we're looking at assets and opportunities to build and to develop, we're competing with individuals that have more money, usually come to the table with no contingencies, whereas we're looking at zoning, because most of the projects we have to do require some type of relief. Require us to go back and ask for a zoning change or ask for a relief in
Sure.
setbacks. So we put those as contingencies in our contracts or acquisition contracts. It kind of limits us. Most owners don't want to wait that long for the transaction to happen. So I'm just mentioning that because it's showing the pros and cons and working through and why it's become very difficult for us to create more affordable housing opportunities on the East End.
Well, Curtis already answered one of our
Yeah.
questions, which is where do you get your funding? But
Right. And what are the main goals of the Housing Authority?
Well, I'd say it's three panels. One, we want to create safe, sound, comfortably habited, affordable housing opportunities throughout the AMI category. So it's not just one dimension. We recognize that.
AMI?
So the AMI is the area median income. Suffolk County creates what the average income is for Suffolk County. And it's usually Nassau-Suffolk is the measure. It assigns what that area median income is for Nassau and Suffolk.
Right.
We have to measure ourselves under affordability. Everything under 130% of the area median income represents affordable housing.
Right.
So from
So you have to
130%.
earn, in other words, 130% or less
Or
to
less.
qualify for
And what's
any of the
AMI
affordable
for
housing.
Suffolk County right now, approximately?
I don't have that number right now.
Well,
but-
I was just looking at it, and not to play smarty pants or anything, but I was looking at it, and I noticed recently it was 124,000
Yeah,
in
I think
Suffolk
so.
County. But then the census also said that it's 113,000 in Southampton town.
Yes.
So, but when you use AMI figures, you've got to do the county, is that right?
Suffolk County. So we have to, all of our programs have to be based on Suffolk County's numbers, whether it's AMI or if it's payment standards. And we're getting into rental in comparison to homeownership.
Sure.
So that's another question. What is affordability? What is affordable housing?
You know,
Because most people would say, well, is it rental? Is it home ownership? Is it a dollar amount? Is it an income level? And the quick answer is it's all of it.
Right.
yeah.
All of it matters.
Yeah.
And so we have to ensure that we're constructing, building, and able to provide a product that's under a certain measure to meet affordability.
Okay.
Right.
And and housing is needed for people on all levels of the scale, including people making over $120,000 a year. People making up to $200,000 are struggling with housing today.
That's the middle housing issue,
And
right?
it's inevitable if you're on on one of the social media sites that somebody announces affordable housing, and then somebody writes in there, that's not affordable, because their perception of affordability may be in the past. Prices, costs, rents, sales, everything, and income has risen significantly
Absolutely.
in recent years. So,
What we've been doing in the past and why it's been extremely difficult to create housing opportunities is that we've been looking at the creation from top down rather than bottom up. Top down meaning we want to create housing that meets 80% AMI or 90% or 100% AMI. We want home sales to be at a certain level, and that's the goal. Not taking in consideration that I have to acquire the property.
right.
Not taking in consideration that I have to do pre-development, not taking in consideration that most of these, as I stated before, require some type of either relief or zoning change, which is a cost as
Right.
part of pre-development. It's appraisals, it's surveys, it's engineers, consultants, attorneys. Time, health department. I mean, you go on and on and on and on, and then I'm probably carrying some type of debt while holding on to this parcel, meaning either a loan or some type of option agreement. We take all that in consideration, and then construction costs. Costs have gone up substantially over the last
Yes.
5 years.
Yeah.
And any developer will tell you, it doesn't matter whether it's affordable or not,
Right.
it's expensive. But on top of that, because it's affordable, it's even a higher cost. Why? Because A, you don't want to skimp on quality. You want to make sure your affordable housing units are above standard, even greater than. We're not talking just sustainable, but we're talking about homes that are truly sustainable to enable the carrying costs for individuals either owning or renting stays low and stays affordable in perpetuity. Not just in their overall costs, but their carrying costs, their energy efficiency, they're making sure that everything is maintained and they're able to afford the home after the home closes or they're in it. So when we take in all of those factors and then landscaping, a
Right.
wastewater treatment plant that has ongoing unit costs, oversight, annual inspections, because we inspect our properties on an annual basis, and then payroll to make sure the property, when we do our recertifications. There's a huge cost to creating affordable housing
Right.
that most for-profit developers don't have to go through. Because of that cost, where are we going to come up with those that funding or those means? Most of that is either through New York State, through Suffolk County, and most recently, Community Housing Fund.
Right.
State and county are very competitive markets. And I'll give you a quick comparison. Sandy Hollow and Spionk represent 66 total units of housing. Those two projects were actually supposed to be 50 units each. And so our pro forma was based on those independent projects being built at 50 units each. Unfortunately, we were asked to reduce our number of units to become more in conforming with the community. And in doing so, now it represents a total of 66 units.
Between the two, as
Between the
opposed
two.
to 100 between the
In
two.
order for us to compete in the open market, meaning getting funding from New York State,
Right.
we have to go as a combined project, send it to New York State as a combined project application, and compete with areas such as Niagara and upstate New York and Westchester County
Sure.
that
Right.
has hundreds of units as part of their project program.
Right.
So here are 66 units, the cost of which is greater than, because we're in the east end of Long Island, and you have Niagara and Westchester County, Nassau County,
Yeah.
Right.
that has 200 units for less. So
Right, so
we-
when you're the person at the state looking down at
where am I
your
getting the
s-
best cost
right,
of
best
per
bang for your
dollar?
buck,
Because
right,
their-
exactly.
Their charter is to create as
As
many
much as you
units
can, right.
possible with the money that they have. So
Right.
So
to
it's
pay
very
twice
competitive.
as much for 66 units
Yes.
Right.
is difficult for them to justify.
Sandy Hollow and Spionk represented the highest award in our funding stream with the fewest number of units.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. So even and that's, we won't even get into the pro-housing, that's another conversation another time.
Sure.
Right.
But as part of having that conversation with the state, we have to recognize that Southampton and the East End is different than any other region, and we have to look at even funding from a different manner.
What developments have you completed in the town, and how do you manage them?
Okay. In terms of home ownership, we have built nearly 30 homes for first-time home buyers. We've teamed with Long Island Housing Partnership with homes in Flanders. We've teamed with Habitat for Humanity with homes in Riverside. We've done it on our own. And so we've been able to develop in Flanders, Riverside, Hampton Bays, East Quogue, Southampton Village, which was the hardest, Sag Harbor, and West Hampton. That's
Wow.
yeah,
Now, are
so
these single-family
single-family homes.
Okay,
Those are just single-family homes that were provided for first-time home buyers.
okay.
Then we have rental units. That would be Hampton-based apartments first, which we acquired under the USD housing plan, funding plan. We did a debt services, we wanted to recreate our debt services in a better manner, so we took out a bond, which is another feature of a housing authority. Because we're quasi-government, we're able to bond.
You're able to bond.
Right.
We're able to
Right.
bond. And because we are in the hamlet of Southampton, we adopt the town's bond rating.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we were able,
They
when
have
we issue,
AAA, right?
we get our AAA bond rating, so we're able to use that as also a
That's
funding
excellent.
stream.
Goodness.
For Hampton Bays, we refunded that and we were able to take out a bond. And out of that bond, we were able to do refurbishing of Hampton Bays to make it more energy efficient and ADA compliant. Then we also have Sandy Hollow and Spionk, which are our rental units, and we have a number of independent rental homes that we have through our region.
That's great. But you can bond, but you also have to be able to repay that bond. And there's
Correct.
the accountability of being a standalone housing authority.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. In the interest of time, we have going forward, we have a number of projects that we have on our pipeline. It's always been my goal to look at hotel, motel, resorts as a viable means of alternative housing opportunities.
Sure.
So we have all of these hotel, motel resorts that operating independently as long-term housing.
They
You're
already
right. They're
are
de
being
facto
used as
housing,
that.
right.
They've
Yeah.
transitioned to become that. And so since they're operating in that manner, let's make them legal.
Right.
And so we're right now we're working on our first acquisition, We're in contract to build, to purchase a hotel in Shinnecock Hills. That will represent 5 studio apartments, one bedroom apartment, and 2 2-bedroom cottages. I think this will be a good guideline for other opportunities that come around where we have pre-existing density. We don't have to create new density. We don't have to introduce new density, nor do we have to introduce a new rental opportunity. There's a history.
Right.
And so out of that history, we'll be able to repurpose that.
And the goal is to maintain that it can never really turn over and become full market rate unaffordable housing. in other
Whenever we
words.
take on a project, we always put some type of covenant restriction on the property.
Right.
So it stays affordable in perpetuity. And more importantly, as part of that, a lot of the funding we have, there's a requirement that it becomes affordable in perpetuity.
Right.
For the hotel, state has a hotel conversion a program,
Right.
which they're going to fund. We've already had them here several times, and they're
Good.
excited about the project. And through that, they have requirements to ensure that it stays affordable in perpetuity because they're providing the debt.
Right.
We've
So-
been talking about that for years, right,
Years.
Curtis? And you did not seem to be getting the support that you were hoping for 5 years ago, 6 years ago, right? And
Yes.
now all of a sudden it's coming together.
Everything
That's
takes time.
great.
We had the
Yeah,
conversation about
patience.
if you want to create affordable housing, what do you have to do? And I think you had the best comeback. You said you need about 2.5 years and multi-million dollars in the bank, and then maybe you can get something done.
And be patient.
Be patient.
You're right. Yeah, you're right.
Well, and you need the
East
support of
Hampton
the community behind you too, and I think
You
that
do.
is shifting a little bit too, as people are really suddenly starting to see the need is real.
It didn't
So-
just take the need; they need to see the example.
Yes.
I think that we become extremely concerned when there's no example. Sandy Hollow and Spionk have become a model for community because most individuals, when you hear affordable housing, you think of New York City tenements. You
Right.
think of high rises. You think of multi-level high rises in the community, not recognizing that you can create through style, through design and architecture,
Right.
a more residential feel and look.
One
Spionk
that blends
Commons
in with the
being
community
correct.
feel,
If
right.
you look at Spionk Commons, the shown there, where you have more of a residential feel, you have front gables, you have with returns, you have seam roofs. You show the texture of the house in the form that becomes more residential in look and feel.
Right.
And I think that gets people recognizing that it doesn't necessarily have to be an eyesore.
Right.
It can be an asset to a
Right.
community. The goal of Sandy Hollow right there, my model for that was a manor home, a guest home, and a barn. And so the front there facade is the manor house. The side would be a guest house, something a little more
Right.
submissive. And at the rear, we actually have a cedar shingled white trim barn style units in the rear to take care of so it looks like an estate.
Right. Looks
In the
beautiful.
center of that lot is the wastewater treatment plant that's been properly screened. So when you drive into the overall complex, it looks like you have a pool in the dead center. I've had people come in and say, "Do you know what that is?" So I didn't know you had a pool here. Well, it's a pool, but it's not the type of pool you think. It's our wastewater treatment plant. So just from texture, from design, from vernacular, from overall being creative, you can create a seamless project that people will understand doesn't have to have that negative idea.
Right.
The best compliment I've ever had from someone, they came to one of our projects at a groundbreaking, at a ribbon cutting. He said, "This looks too nice to be affordable housing." And I know that meant to be a kind of a stab, but to be honest with you, that's a compliment.
Right.
Because you came through and you didn't recognize it to be limited in style and taste and design. You saw it
Right.
to
What
not
you-
only
what
blend
you
it,
would have
it enhanced the
perceived.
community.
Right.
Curtis, please tell a quick story about one of the major objectors to Sandy Hollow and then what they said after it was done and now what's happening.
So not only the major objector, and I'm not speak names, they actually sued us. And out of that lawsuit cost time, obviously there was a cost, there was time. And most recently I get a phone call asking, "Hey, you know something? You did a great job over at Sandy Hollow. We have the property right next door. Buy our property." I said, well, I don't know if we have it right away. He says, "It doesn't matter how long it's going to take. I have several people who want to purchase the property, who have all ask. We'll not only sell you the property, but we'll give you the option so you can get your zoning in place." and we're working on that right now.
So
So it's a
one of the
great
major
opportunity. It's a major
objectors-
objector who saw the
Right.
plan come to fruition, lived next to it every day. So he saw not only the plan come to fruition, saw the operation
Right.
of the complex and recognized it was done tastefully, it's organized, it's well maintained, it enhanced the community, and said, I want you to replicate that.
On my property, I
property.
want to sell
Right.
you my property.
That is a success story that.
Yeah, that's a
most-
come full
That is
circle
a full
moment,
circle
yeah,
story.
Yes.
That is a really
yeah.
great story.
We need more of those.
And with the hotel, same situation, the
Yeah.
hotel, the owner of
It
the
seems like
property.
there's a lot of support for
She
that
has,
community-wise.
well, she has plenty of people who have given offers on that property, all ask offers. And mind you, we have a contingency, no contingency clause. I saw her after, I had to go to the CAC and talk to them about the plan
did
itself,
that,
and I went to this local civic. After the meeting, she was there, and the owner, she said, you know something, we have other people who are interested, but this was an opportunity for my family to help out create affordable housing in the community, and I like what you said, we're all in. So we have perfect examples of
Right.
once, getting past the fear, making it the reality real, and now being able to use that as momentum to create more housing opportunities.
We've got 1 minute left, Curtis.
Yes.
Give us your biggest goals, dreams, fantasies for the Housing Authority and for Southampton, because you're really gaining some tremendous
Yeah.
overdue momentum
Yes.
right now in the Housing Authority. So
Absolutely.
give us your big vision of the town of Southampton in 5 years.
Quickly, we know we're not gonna have 67 unit complexes. So we know that we're gonna have to have opportunities where we have, almost like we did Sandy Hollow and Spionk. We're gonna have to do scattered sites throughout Southampton. And I believe there's a possibility of doing that on multiple lots. We're working on that now. Watermill is one of the other lots that are being transferred from, it's being sold to the Housing Authority using the Community Housing Fund.
Montauk
On Montauk
Highway.
Highway. We're closing on that soon. We have another vision of possibly working on a project in Bridgehampton that will allow for seniors to be able to use the Bridgehampton Child Care Center as a possible kind of a joint venture project, and using the facilities as well as the programs over at the senior center, moving them over to Bridgehampton Child Care Center.
Terrific.
We have North Sea Mecox, we have 9 homes we're building for first-time home buyers. And then you just most recently we're doing project next door over at Sandy Hollow too.
That's amazing.
We're out of time,
Yes.
so I don't
We
know
could
if
talk
we're
forever.
going to have this, but thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you for inviting
sharing
me.
your vision, sharing your great thoughts, and for the hard work that you do.
Thank you,
We appreciate it.
thank you.